This is the Sony ZV-1. Now, in my opinion, it's got a load of pros and only really one con. So stay tuned and I'll give you my full review of everything you need to know about this camera. I've been using the ZV-1 for a while now and overall I'm really happy with it. At first, I kind of thought of it as a bit of a backup camera, but because of how convenient and small it is, I found myself leaning towards it more and more. I can only apologise for the dad joke. It's done now. Let's move on. Okay, so every time I leave the house, I look at my main camera and my brain starts shouting at me. I think it's the thought of dragging that thing around for the day. It sometimes kind of takes the fun out of filming a bit. Come on, who's a good boy? Oh, good boy. Then I look at this tiny little ZV-1 and it's sitting really innocently next to it and my brain smiles and it just forgives me. So because this thing is so small, I can just chuck it in my bag or a jacket pocket and I don't even realise it's there. And when you look at the quality of the footage that you can get from the ZV-1, it's hard to justify carrying around anything bigger. Considering the ZV-1 costs 4 times less than my full frame setup, it is incredible what it can do. So at the start of this video I was filming on my full frame camera, but right now I'm filming on the ZV-1. Did you notice the jump? Let me know in the comments if you noticed the switch. I'd actually genuinely love to know if you saw the difference. Now the ZV-1 shoots both 1080 and 4K videos. Although it's worth noting if you're shooting in 4K, your image will be cropped in slightly. It's got a 1-inch sensor and that means the video quality it captures is going to be way ahead of any smartphone or action camera, like a GoPro for example, especially in low light. Now, if you're more experienced with cameras, you can control all of the exposure settings manually, or if you just want to be able to turn on the camera and start recording without touching a single setting, you can keep it in Sony's Intelligent Auto mode. Intelligent Auto mode. Wish I could install that in my brain. In this mode, the camera literally does all the work for you. It detects the scene and it gives you the best settings for any situation. The lens on this thing is the equivalent of a 24 to 70mm, meaning you get a nice wide shot at the 24mm end, but you can still zoom into your subject for a closer look. And the aperture of the lens opens up to a very wide 1.8, meaning not only can you capture crisp images in low light conditions, but you can also get that nice blurry background that makes your shots look so much more cinematic. In comparison, a lens with the same spec for my full frame camera would cost over £2,000, and that's just for the lens. Along with this great lens, you also get a built-in ND filter, which is really rare for a compact camera. An ND filter is basically a bit like a pair of sunglasses for your lens. So what that means is even in a really bright sunny day in those kind of conditions, the ND filter can be turned on and you can still capture a shot in the way that you want to without the bright areas being really overexposed. With my full frame camera, if I want to use an ND filter, I have to physically screw it into the end of the lens. So having this feature built in is really convenient. So let's take a look at some of the unique features of this thing that set it aside from other compact cameras. Now, if you've ever tried to film outside with a built-in mic on a camera, you've probably found that the slightest bit of wind can literally ruin your audio. But the ZV-1 comes with this. It's a little wind muff that you can attach on top of the camera and it will stop that wind noise from ruining your shot. What you're hearing now is audio that's being recorded directly by the camera, and what's unique about the ZV-1 is it actually has a directional mic built in, and what that means is it records more sound in front of the camera than behind it, which is great for situations like vlogging, where you want the focus to be on the person that's talking as opposed to any background noise. So this is what it sounds like from the front, and as I walk round the camera, the volume will actually get a little bit quieter. As I come back round towards the other side, it should start to get a little bit louder again. And that's really unusual. You don't normally get that with a built-in mic. So usually, in order to achieve a blurry background in your video, you need to make a lot of manual adjustments to the settings. You need to open the aperture, raise the shutter speed, add a filter, lower the ISO. But with the ZV-1, it has this magical button and you simply press it and it will instantly make the background blurry. And if I press it again, then everything comes back into focus. So this is perfect for somebody who doesn't really want to be fiddling around with manual settings. Next up, we have another unique feature and it's called the product showcase feature. So let's say you want to hold up a product to the camera. Usually this doesn't work because the camera will always stay focused on your face and ignore the product. And that's why you often see people holding their hand out behind the product to help it focus, or trying to hide their face so that the camera focuses on the object instead. It's a bit of a chasing forward and back situation. With product showcase mode, you press one button and then the function is set. And that means that when you hold a product up to the camera, it will focus on that item. And when you lift it down, the focus returns to your face. And this is really impressive. It's flawless. It seems to just work every time. I don't actually know what that is. And finally, we have another feature that you do find in other more expensive Sony cameras, but you won't find in rival brand cameras like Canon's G7X3, and that's the ability to use picture profiles. So in pretty much all cameras, you'll find different creative styles to make your image look a certain way. There are things like sepia, vivid, portrait, neutral, monochrome, etc. The list kind of goes on and on. But it's basically a bit like using an Instagram filter. The ZV-1 also has these standard creative styles, but as well as this, it allows you to control things in a lot more depth. There's several default picture profiles built in, but you can also fully customize your own and save them to the camera, so you can create the exact look you're going for. You can control pretty much everything from the shadows, highlights, contrast, saturation, and you can even change the levels of each individual colour. So you can boost the reds for a warmer look, or turn up the greens if you're going for that reptilian overlord look. But being able to fully customise your own picture profile means you can have your footage looking perfect straight out of the camera with no editing or colour grading required. So I mentioned at the start of this video that the ZV-1 has many pros and just one con. Well, let's get into that. So the stabilization has 3 modes. You can either have it turned off, which is only recommended if the camera is on a tripod. You can have it turned on to standard, and this is great if you're standing still and filming with a small bit of movement. It'll remove any micro jitters you get when filming with the camera handheld. But if you're walking along, you're going to need to switch the stabilization up to its maximum, and they call that active mode. This does a really good job of stabilizing the footage, but the problem is it cuts into your shot by quite a bit. All right, not that much. So if you're walking along and you're filming your surroundings in front of you, then that's not an issue. But if you're walking along and you're filming yourself, it means you're going to fill up a lot of the screen, so people can't kind of see your surroundings as much. Now, one way of solving this is to use a handheld tripod and holding the camera a bit further away from your face. And the other option is to buy a wide-angle lens adapter. But these need to be stuck onto the lens, which adds a bit of extra size to the camera. But all in all, I do think the pros outweigh the con, just the one con, and it is a great camera, particularly if you are looking to start vlogging and stuff. Hopefully I've covered everything you were looking for today, but if you have got any questions, do just drop me a comment below and I will get back to you. And if you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.